Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. It's been a while since I posted a video relating to Chelsea news, and I thought it's about time that we did so, consolidating some of the early learnings that we've got from Thomas Tuchel's time in charge of Chelsea, some stories that are coming out regarding Chelsea's interest and other teams in the Premier League's interest in certain world-class players in order to build a team for the future that is competing. I feel as though I've said that before. I said it under Lampard, and then all of a sudden, a bad run of 7 weeks of form, and now I'm like looking forward to next season again. But there's a lot to look forward to still for this season, but in terms of transfers, the January window is over, and to be quite honest, it was probably one of the most boring windows, not just for us Chelsea fans, but for Premier League clubs in general. There wasn't really any ingoings, many outgoings to talk about at all, so we look forward to next summer, which is again going to be a very interesting window because no fans in stadiums probably now for the rest of the season means that certain teams won't be able to spend money, but there is a team that will be able to spend money in the summer, and it is of course our Chelsea. Despite spending a lot of money last year, we've still got a pretty decent financial statement in terms of what our club can bring to the table with new players. Got a few little stories today around certain individuals that have been playing under Tuchel and looking a little bit better than what we've seen before. And then I'm going to finish the video by letting you guys know about a thought that I've got about a striker who could be on his way to Chelsea in the summer, and why I feel as though what we're going to see between now and the end of the season is going to be conclusive as to whether or not Chelsea are actually going to go in for this player. Before we get into anything though, let's get the meat and potatoes, the boring stuff out of the way. Subscribe to GBFC if you haven't already done so. We're on the way to 200,000, a fifth of 1 million people, which is a bloody wonderful number. Take a look at this behind me. We're slowly building the setup a bit more. We've got the Stamford Bridge sign in there. The GBFC Yes Guys sign, I'm still thinking of a way that I can somehow attach it to the wall without the house falling down, which is of course primary thing that I need to deal with. I've got to sleep in the bloody gaff, haven't I? But anyway, we move into story number one of the day. And it is the man that got man of the match in the game against Sheffield United. It's Timo Werner. The striker who, if you're not a Chelsea fan, all you really care about is the goal statistic. Has he scored a Premier League goal yet in quite some time? No, he hasn't. However, we saw from the game against Sheffield United with the 2 Timo Werner assists that with Thomas Tuchel's way of playing, with the tactics we've got, having 2 strikers and somebody playing behind the striker, it is enabling us to get the best out of Timo Werner. We can see that when he has a bit more freedom to run around, to run in between the lines, it isn't necessarily just the goals that are providing worth from Timo Werner in this Chelsea team. He's actually creating enough opportunities for himself and for his teammates in order for it to not be essential that he's currently scoring goals. It's difficult when you're a striker, particularly when Timo Werner came to Chelsea. We look at this goal scoring record that he had before he joined us. It was pretty good. And then he started his Chelsea career scoring goals in all competitions, and people were thinking, this guy is the real deal. You know, this is not one of those Chelsea striker signings where we ruin the striker and he just disappears into the face of the earth or off the face of the earth and he's no good anymore. Some people have come out and said in recent weeks, including myself, you know, I've sat here on this channel many times and said, we need more from Timo. If he's not going to score goals and yet he's not contributing to the team, then there's a problem. You know, we've got so many good attacking players, and as we get into the later part of this video, we're going to talk about another player that might well be coming in. And the question was, who is it that's going to lose out in this team if said striker, who we're going to talk about, is actually going to come in? Now, what I'm seeing from particularly that Sheffield United game with Timo is that it might not be the best for him to be the one goal scorer in this side. You know, Mason Mount started adding goals to his team. Timo's winning penalties. Jorginho is scoring penalties as a result of it. And as long as Chelsea are winning football matches and Timo Werner is continuing to develop within his game, I don't necessarily think it is as worrying as it was a few weeks ago where Timo was still either out on the left wing, he might as well have been on flipping holiday because he wasn't doing very much there. But, now we can actually see there are developments within his game. The way that we're tactically setting up with Thomas Tuchel is actually benefiting Timo Werner. So I wanted to address it at the beginning of this video today because I did slate the guy for quite some time here on GBFC, and I think rightly so. A lot of people say it's reactionary content, you're giving up on him a bit too quickly. I can only really talk about what I see on the football pitch, and for quite some time, it wasn't up to a standard that we would have expected or in fact wanted from Timo. But now, I feel as though he's getting a little bit better. We move into story number 2, and it is a question really for you guys more so than anything else. Andreas Christensen is come in because Thiago Silva got an unfortunate injury during that game against Spurs. And for me, I've already said it before, ate a slice of humble pie. I said that Christensen wasn't a good enough centre-back to be here at Chelsea. But what we saw in that game against Sheffield United was a very dominant display from the centre-back, probably one of the best that we've seen from him in quite some time. The biggest worry that I've always had is he tough enough? You got people that we're used to like John Terry, Ricardo Carvalho, who there's not very many people I've seen in my lifetime better at sliding in, winning the ball back and then carrying it forward. Did I ever think Christensen was going to be at that level that I think Chelsea need to be aspiring to if we're looking to build a spine of a team that can be successful for the future? I've not really seen Christensen as that guy. However, Chelsea have obviously been linked to a few centre-backs. If you see Jan's video yesterday, he mentioned that Jerome Boateng is actually a man from Bayern Munich who is on Chelsea's radar for this summer. Him and Thiago Silva, maybe a little bit too old. You've also, if we link this into story number 3, sorry, I'm getting a little bit carried away here, sticking a bit too far back. David Alaba is another man that Chelsea have been heavily linked with. However, the £400,000 a week, which by the way is an absolutely astronomical sum of money, geezer be pocketing over £1 million a month. 400,000 is currently the stumbling block that if Chelsea want to go in for Alaba, are they willing to make him the club's highest paid player? Probably not. And I think he's going to have to lower those wage demands massively if he's ever going to come to Chelsea. So the question is, Christensen. I don't want to jump the gun and say that, after one good performance and a decent second half against Spurs, we no longer need to go out and sign a centre half. However, the question that I really want to know from you guys in the comments down below is Mark Guehi is currently on loan at Swansea. It seems a bit odd to be putting Guehi in the same kind of conversation as David Alaba at this point, considering Alaba's been at the top of the game, he's in the prime years of his career. Do Chelsea need to be looking more within the club at maybe Christensen and actually giving him the benefit of the doubt? For me, I always feel as though Christensen is that kind of player who needs the confidence of the fans, the confidence of the manager, the staff and the club behind him in order to actually play to the best of his ability. Do we give Christensen that chance now that Silva's out injured and he's actually come in and done very well? Based off of merit, you would say, particularly after that bloody Rudiger own goal, which to this moment in time I've still watched it back about 50 times and have no idea what the geezer's doing. Do we say we don't need to go out and spend 400k a week, although he's a free agent, it'd be a great deal? Is it at a point now where we look at the club, at someone like Mark Guehi, who's doing very well at Swansea, Ethan Ampadu, who's also on loan at Sheffield United, is he a centre-back that Chelsea can call upon for the future? Or do we need to go out there, break our wage records and all of this stuff to bring in someone like David Alaba? I personally think if Alaba is on the market and he's willing to drop his wages, he's such a great player that Chelsea should definitely be going for, particularly if we're going to be using this wing-back formation where Ben Chilwell or Marcus Alonso, which I still find it bizarre saying that, he can play on the left wing-back, Alaba comes in, plays in the left centre-back role, and then it's up to the other two positions in the other centre-back areas where we can say who's the best, who's going to start, and maybe a Guehi or an Ampadu could come in and fill in there. Let me know in the comments down below where you stand on David Alaba. Hopefully, as the weeks go on now, between now and the end of the season, we'll find out a bit more as to whether or not Chelsea are actually fully involved in this conversation to sign Alaba or not. I think a move to Real Madrid is not only preferable for the player, but it also makes a bit more sense in order for him to not drop his wages as much because, quite frankly, we know how tight Chelsea can be sometimes, although we do throw cash willy-nilly at some people. 400 grand a week, I don't think he's going to get that in the blue of West London. So we move into story number 4, and it is Christian Pulisic. A lot of people were worried that Pulisic is not part of Thomas Tuchel's plans. That, my friends, is exactly why it is important not to jump the gun when it comes to trying to come up with our own conclusions as to why players are not featuring. Thomas Tuchel's come out and said that it was in fact a family reason that Christian Pulisic was not involved in the game against Sheffield United, and I like that. You know, as much as it is all about the football, we want to see the best players on the field and in the squad for our Chelsea team as much as we can. If it is a family issue, not only does the world not need to know about everything, but we should also back the manager and support that if Christian Pulisic couldn't play for that very reason. So I don't think we should be worried about Pulisic not being in the squad. Hopefully it will resolve itself in due course. We move into story number 5 of the day, and you guys probably already guessed it from the thumbnail. You probably already had a bit of an idea as to what it was going to be about from the title of this video. Erling Haaland. The talks, I mean, I feel as though it's a bit of deja vu. You know, we were here around February, March time last season, and you guys know on GBFC, I like to start the agenda. You know, when I think something could happen, and I want it to happen, I like to push these things. And the whole Timo Werner, Kai Havertz saga from last summer was absolutely rinsed beyond belief here on GBFC. Regarding Erling Haaland, I've got a theory, you know, and I think it's time that I start pushing the agenda again, which we will do until there's any sign that Haaland is going to pick either Real Madrid, Man City, Bayern Munich over Chelsea in the future. If we look at what we're currently doing with the strikers in this team, with what I said in story number 1 in this video today about how Timo Werner's got himself a new role, he's played alongside Tammy Abraham, who was bought off in half-time in one of the games, and then Olivier Giroud started at the weekend. We know with Giroud, despite the brilliant striker that he is and how great he's been at times for us this season, with the age of the player, it's very difficult to actually create a long-term plan for Olivier Giroud within this squad. Tammy Abraham, there's a lot of questions still about whether Tammy is prolific enough, whether he is the quality that Chelsea need to be challenging on all fronts. I back Tammy. I think his goal scoring record is very good. However, when the market is the way it is, when teams can not really afford to be splashing the cash, and Chelsea can, and Borussia Dortmund, we've heard that because of COVID, which is never nice to see, but they're going to have to sell probably some of their top players this summer in order to balance their own books. With Erling Haaland's release clause being available in 2022, is this the summer where Chelsea look at this and say, you know what, we might have spent a lot of money on Timo. We might have Tammy Abraham still at the club. But Erling Haaland, I mean, I say it and I almost choke because I'm thinking about this and I just think it could be one of those Didier Drogba-like signings. You know, when Mourinho came in and he says to Abramovich back in 2004, there's only one man that I need. And Abramovich looked at Didier Drogba and thought, are you sure that this is the geezer that you want? After Mourinho and Drogba had this conversation in the game in Marseille, Mourinho was like, yes, he is the man that I need. When I look at Erling Haaland and what he brings to a football pitch and the aura that the man has about him, you know, he's scary. He might be very young, but his goal scoring record, it's almost unmatched in European football and in world football at this point for the age of the player. And I just look at this new Timo Werner role, you know, where he's got a bit more of a free striker's roam and he can run around, create chances, get in good positions. Having an absolute unit like Erling Haaland in the team makes a lot of sense to me. Erling Haaland's father came out and said that he is destined to be playing in the Premier League at some point. At the moment, Chelsea's competition for Haaland is pretty strong. You know, Manchester City, they've not bought a new striker for a while. Aguero's been their talisman ever since he came in, even though he could have been a Chelsea player at one point, Sergio Aguero, for those of you that forgot. They're going to probably be looking to sign a new striker as well. And there's no one better available than Erling Haaland. Pep Guardiola looks as though he might be about to add another Premier League title to the list, so potentially Haaland to City would make a lot of sense as well. There's also the Real Madrid link. We know that they're a big fan of the player. We know that any player that gets linked with Real Madrid is probably going to have their head turned, a little bit like me looking at these flipping wonky pillows that I didn't fix behind me. The question is, Erling Haaland to Chelsea is... I think, for me, I think it's too good of an opportunity for us not to be interested and therefore invested in the idea of signing the player. I think it would be a phenomenal move for Chelsea, particularly with the early stages of the Thomas Tuchel era where we're playing with two strikers, we're playing with a player behind the striker. I feel as though it's just a dream signing that I would absolutely love to see Chelsea go for. The news that's coming out is that we are in fact interested in the player in the summer. There's been a lot of reputable journalists talking about the idea that Chelsea might in fact go for Haaland. It's early February, but I believe it is time to start the Erling Haaland to Chelsea agenda on GBFC. And I'm not going to be at the point where, you know, City make a bid for the player and then he hasn't quite signed yet, but it looks like he's going to go there. I'll stop it if that's the case, you know. But with Tammy Abraham, you know, in and out of the team, with Olivier Giroud's age, with this supposed new role that we see for Werner, I think it is the Haaland-Werner idea is just something that gets me very excited. And of course, I wanted to get you guys' opinion in the comments down below. As the talks continue, the hype will continue to build. So let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. What would it mean for Tammy Abraham? Also let me know that in the comments. Thank you guys for watching today. Thought I'd just consolidate a few little things that have been going around the Chelsea community and in the news panels for a while. Let me know your thoughts on everything in the comments. Subscribe to GBFC if you are new. We got Barnsley in the FA Cup on Thursday night. Kind of looking forward to that one. We're in good form. Hopefully it can continue and we get ourselves to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. Thank you guys for watching. See you all later. Come on, you Blues.